stage and talking back to the level 1 students in the audience. Level 1. Woo. Great. So, start this off. Anybody have a burning question that they'd like to start us off with?
How did you decide that Natalie was going to be on the floor?
I was peeing.
That's
So,
nice.
no.
Nature.
Weakness.
Nature, yes.
Survival of the
Nature
fittest
leads.
situation.
Snozzed and lost.
Nature and snozzed.
Might get lost.
Anybody else? I got some questions to get us started if we need it, but. Yes, Steve.
How do you stay outside of your own head when you're,
Question.
You trust the people you're on stage with.
I feel like when you're on stage, it's just kind of committing to whatever character you're doing. Like, you're not playing a part. You're actually being that thing. Like the more you can commit to whatever you're doing, then the less it feels like you're playing pretend. When you're off stage, it's just really listening, because it's very easy to be off stage and be like, oh man, this would be hilarious. Oh, I'm going to do this. All right, this is the line I'm going to come with. But then you're not listening to what's happening on stage. So, either commit to the character you're in or just make sure you're super listening.
And then if you do find yourself in your head, just forgive yourself real quick and get back out.
Yep.
Because that happens. They just sometimes it just bubbles up and you're just
Yeah, just a simple if you're in head, just going like no, and then just refocus.
I think reacting honestly is also a good idea.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, because you don't have to think about what you're going to do if you're just reacting honestly to something.
And audience members empathize with like the voice of reason in scenes, so that sometimes called straight man character, who it's totally reasonable for that character to just be like, what? And that's totally okay, and that usually ends up being like a laugh line too. So, not thinking too much, reacting honestly. Don't try to be funny. Don't try to make a joke. Just be.
Great. Good. Awesome. I saw another hand up. Dave, yeah.
Just how experienced are all of you in your recent 4th class graduates? Have you been doing this all your lives?
I'm a recent 4th class graduate, so like a little over a year maybe. Oh, hey, thanks.
Here's your level 4 chip.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
We should get chips.
Barbecue chips?
I'm gonna get this one now.
Yeah, chips.
Pizza burger?
The rest of us.
I mean, we could go down the line and say.
Yeah, we were saying how many.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to just start that off in the middle, but
Yeah,
that's fine.
I've been doing it maybe like 3 years, just sort of like committing to 3 years. I'd taken some acting classes and did some acting before, but never improv. But since I went to the levels at Pig, and 3 years.
10 years this past September, October.
About 7 years, but it was like a 2.5 year spell, and then whatever the rest of the math is to complete the 7.
15 years.
Woo!
Yeah. This year. Woo!
16 years this year.
He's lying. No, I'm just
17. No, I'm at 12. I'm at 12 years continuously. I did do some 36 years ago. I think. But I only did it for a few years, probably almost maybe 8 years then, and then I took a big break and then got back into it. So.
4? Yeah. 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
4.
I'm 3 years.
Still a year, a little over a year.
And I think I'm probably the second newbiest to Chloe.
Yeah,
like
I think so.
Justin, I think I was in your first level 1 class that you taught, which was just over a year and a half ago.
Aww. And look at her now.
I started my very first improv anything here about a little over 2 years ago.
I took a year of classes in Chicago and didn't get put on a house team and stopped for 5 years, and then it's been 10 and a half years in Rhode Island. Tonight was show 353.
Oh.
Whole year.
With a bang.
Bagley and Mindy and I were in the whole one together.
None of my classmates are here.
Or ours. The host was one of my level 1 classmates.
Yes, he was.
Is he there? Oh, there he is.
We were in 4 together, weren't we?
Level 4.
We were here,
Get
yeah.
the first
Oh
time.
yeah, were you in there too?
Yep.
Okay, see, some of my classmates are here. I remember theme.
Got another question? Yeah, bro.
Yeah, how do you like, I guess balance, or maybe don't balance in entirely one way, on like starts, you have a couple ideas, and then other things are happening, like how soon you're like, you know what, never mind, done.
We sort of like find a button the scenes pretty organically. But I think a lot of it has to do with like really listening. Are you asking like how
I'm talking about you're off.
Oh, okay. Oh, how do we like
if
edit?
you're keeping ideas in your head, like scene starts for later on, when do you bail on, that's not a good scene start anymore, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, got it, okay.
The audience will give you a lot of feedback.
Yep.
You can
Yeah.
sort of read what the audience is responding to and say like, okay, they're definitely not into the dog killing jokes tonight. But,
Strange night.
but they love the karaoke.
The singing races.
It also kind of goes back to, like we were saying earlier about listening even off stage and really paying attention to what's going on stage. Because, yeah, you may have a rough idea in your head of a start, but if it's not going to fit into what's going on, plus that's going to occupy consciousness, that means you're not giving yourself to listening to what's going on and watching what's going on stage.
Yeah, I feel like if you're on the side of the stage with too many ideas, like, congratulations. Like that's not gonna happen too often. But like in my mind, it's like if something is happening that's too similar, then that's a good time to bail on it. You know? So it's just like, oh, the monologue happened, and all right, funny dog. Like I'm gonna have a funny dog start, and then somebody else does a scene about a dog. It's like funny dog start's gone. You know?
I think too, like, no matter what you do, anytime you get up on stage, you should be actively doing something, like, as soon as you hit here, or, like, even before, just so you're, like, already making eye contact with the people that are maybe coming out, or you're, like, looking for someone, or at least you're doing something so it's not just two people, like, oh, God, ah! And then you start doing stuff. If you're actively doing things, then you can, like, easily sort of connect those two different activities, or say like, oh wow, we ended up doing the same thing, now we can go from here. But yeah, just making sure that you are active, because that really does kind of get it out of your head too, instead of like, there's so much going on. So
You gotta be able to kill your darlings a bit. So
Yeah.
if you have like a whole bunch of ideas in your head, and then one of your teammates executes it better, just go with it.
yes, and
Ride that gravy train.
yeah.
I have an example from tonight when the last scene, in fact, the movie theater scene. I was coming out and I'm like, oh man, let's go back to the get. Okay, we said something about like a shirt sleeve, so it's going to be a date, and I'm just super into sleeves. And then I set the chairs up. I'm like, this is not a date. Okay, let's talk about his butt. No, we already talked about that. Let me just talk about this fictional movie that we're watching. And then I was talking and I'm like, it's Highlander, and then I kept talking. I'm like, nope, Sword in the Stone. So it just 4 different scene ideas before I finished the first line, and it was more trying to think of something, but I should have come out with a stronger initiation, but then was saved with the callback to our loud realtor friend.
Or like tonight we did our scene where Katie brought in sheep. It took me a solid 10 to 15 seconds to realize, oh, this is all about Settlers of Catan, and I know nothing about Settlers of Catan, except that earlier when we were doing our interview, you mentioned like wood and brick and stuff, and I was like, all right, I know wood, brick, and sheep.
But you took it in a went on with what you knew. Like, you played Candyland, you played Monopoly, like, you played Operation.
The very basics.
Some would say the essential.
So it's like playing to what you know, but also like completely validating what your partner brings out. Because if I was like, sheep, what the fuck are these sheep here for? Like, it'd be like,
those aren't sheep, those are umbrellas. We're playing this other game.
Yeah. Then it'd be a B word killer. Could we say boner here?
Crazy.
Buzzword.
There was a scene where they were in a butt. You think they can't say that?
I think also saying things with confidence is good, even if you don't know what you're talking about. Just pretend like you know.
Yeah.
And then people will be like, "Fuck yeah, that's a thing that exists." She's right.
I just got one of the jokes you said, one of the dad jokes you said. I'm sorry.
What was it? The assault?
Yeah, the
Assault.
Yeah, that's the first one.
I was like, damn it, Sean, don't go there. And then, but now I just got that you were making an ass joke, an assault.
Yeah.
Totally.
Sorry, I just got it. I was mad at you the whole time.
What else is there?
I'm glad we worked this out.
Sorry, it just happened.
I'm really glad.
Who's got another question? Yeah.
So, what are some things that you do to like get on the same page in terms of what a scene is about? Like, I think I noticed several moments, which I probably wouldn't have noticed this had not been taking a class, but moments in which people seem to be operating under different premises and eventually you just kind of converge.
Yep.
And I was wondering how that kind of happens.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard, where you're just sort of operating on different pages until you get on the same page.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like a chapter apart, and sometimes you're like pretty close when you start, but that's pretty par for the course, I think. Giving really juicy specifics too is really good, just so that there's no way that your scene partner wouldn't know where you are.
I think one of the first great steps you can do is eye contact.
Yeah.
Like check in with your scene partner, and then like right off the bat, that's just going to get your energy going in the same direction. And then as soon as you check in with the eyes, then it's like, okay, now I'm listening, and anything that you give me, like I can work with.
There's a scene I did with Brad tonight where I went on stage with pretty much nothing. We made eye contact, and then he sort of like bowed a little bit deferently and said, I don't remember what you said my name was, but like.
Oh, the fox.
But yeah, the fox.
Yeah.
Immediately, I knew like the relationship was that I had a higher status than him. He'd already given me that gift like immediately. So without having like a shared premise, now I knew that. So I decided to have him like dressing me, and that kind of led to the whole run of ridiculous.
Oh yeah, that was another one where I'm like, this is going to be about shooting a fox inside a very small cage. It's going to be about rich people being cruel, and then it wasn't.
You said fox weird.
I'm not great with accents.
That was beautiful. That was a great kid.
Yeah, it was excellent.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for me, like when I was starting out doing improv, was like I would initiate something, and then someone would come in and it would turn to something else, and I would be like, I don't want to do that. I want to still do what I came out with, and that was hard for me, and that's on me to let go of that and not try and engineer it the way I want it to be. It's about like
No, scene partner, you don't realize how funny I am.
This was Williams, junk.
Yeah.
You ruined my idea. So you have to be willing to like, not try and steer yourself and build it together.
Yeah.
Also, when I was gonna say when you're looking at each other and you're kind of figuring stuff out, I always get a sense of who has a stronger premise that they're kind of pushing. Like I was getting, and it's weird to say, I can almost get an energy off of the person and go, they have a real strong idea of what they want to do, and I came in with this half-ass. I'm just gonna go with them. I'm just gonna,
just gonna react to that.
It's because their eyes are wild. They're like, listen to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta get this out fast.
Nope. I think it's just junk.
Yeah, sometimes you get out there and you go like, oh, neither of us have anything. Okay, crap, we gotta make up something here. We just came out because it was an empty stage. And other times you come on and you go like, oh, they got something. I can tell I'm I'm gonna like follow their lead.
I also find mirroring to be helpful too. Like if you're walking out and you're like fuck, just start doing what your scene partner's doing.
Yeah, peas in a pod.
Peas in a pod, baby.
Yeah.
Or like playing with silence too.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely gives you a little bit if you're like, oh God, there's nothing there. You have to just kind of like play in the silence.
Yeah, I mean, the scene where there's the four of us.
The bus
and
birds
on
on
stage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
None of us had an idea.
Oh
no! None of us.
I'll also say I don't know that we had an idea in the hugging time.
We love to see it because everybody was immediately like, oh yes, boom, 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 boom.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then the very visceral reaction of John being turned away.
Yeah.
And the group finger fucking
Yeah.
did it for me. I
And
love it so
because
much.
I think also the audience wanted to like get up and hug.
Yeah.
Fun fact,
and
during
John.
the group flipping off of John, I couldn't see, and so I see hands extended. I thought they were trying to bring him in. And so then like before looking, I started doing this, and then I see a single finger, so then I had to change.
Come over here, fuck off. Come here, fuck off.
Use bully moves.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Bully supplies. Fucking
Police supplies.
Yeah.
From
Ricky,
my
go.
snack guys in my bully pack.
Verified snack.
I know a lot of you are parts of other groups that you were in tonight, but everybody seems to work together so well. And especially during the moments of silence where you guys are telling us you were kind of like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. But they don't seem like awkward silences from out here. Does that come in time, or is it because you just all know each other so well?
Yeah, I feel like in that scene, like I was definitely not in like an oh shit moment. Like I think because like we've Seagulls worked together a little over a year now, and beyond that we have worked together in other groups, and like one of the things when I'm teaching level 1 is I really try to like right off the bat teach that you never have nothing. The first exercise like I do is just have somebody just make a sound and then somebody respond to it, and like every single one of them works because whoever says the first thing, then that's what the existence is. There's no crap. It's just somebody's going to say the first thing, and it doesn't have to be funny. It just has to be a thing, and then we get to build on it and get to the funny. So like I think like in time you get away from that oh shit feeling, and to just a comfort of knowing like I'm playing up here with my friends, and we're gonna have it's gonna work. Like that scene. I was like, I was like, all right, I just want to figure out where we are. I was like, we're at a bus stop because a bus driver drove off and left us behind. So the first line I said was like, that bus driver was a dick. And then that led to us explaining how we had like ruined this person's life and career and bus. So it didn't really end up, going where we thought where like the initial premise was. But all you need is to add that one piece, and then everyone else grabs that and adds another piece, and then you figure out where you are. Yeah. And that's the fun thing is like during those oh shit moments, like all that has to happen is somebody, could be you, could be your scene partner, just has to make a decision and say a fact about what's going on.
Yeah.
And be specific.
Yeah, and that's just going to get people on that same page.
It's very, it's like, in level 2 we teach like, what is the game? Like what is the first unusual thing? And so once everyone sort of gets on that same page, and it can be in silence that you figure out like, oh, okay, this is where we are. Then you start to build that environment around you, and everyone slowly jumps in, or rapidly jumps in, with like, if this is true, then what else is true? So like, if you guys like used to bully the bus driver, yeah, you can heighten it and say like, yeah, we completely destroyed his bus and his life. And like
broke up his marriage.
Yeah, broke up his marriage and stuff. He had a stroke, like really.
But he was the best bus driver ever.
Yeah.
But he loved us.
That was such a
Yeah.
fun decision.
Yeah.
I think also like having the mindset of just being ready to support and trust that you're going to be supported helps, because this was my first time playing with Zella ever. So I haven't been playing. All right, okay.
And Julie too.
I have the privilege of playing with Julie more often, but as a group, this is the first time I play with these people all together, and so I haven't had like the camaraderie for a long time. But I trust all these people that they're gonna support me, and I'm ready to support them.
But I think the short answer to your question though would be that I think at first you're like nobody's good at playing with other people at first because you're so like, oh crap, I have so much to do that I have to do with them. Like, you know, like you're concerned about what you're bringing and what's going on and what you're gonna pull and what you're gonna do, and like nobody's good at like playing with everybody at first. But then like the more improv you do and the more you play with other people, especially people that don't think like you do, then suddenly you start to develop those skills where you can start to play with anybody, any given situation, as long as it's a stage and you're all doing improv. But it is kind of like a road where you have to, like, at first sometimes like you'll click with one person, you're like, as long as I do scenes with this person, I'm good. and then you like that person doesn't take the next class with you and you're like, fuck, you know, like but that's like that's a real thing and that's a common occurrence. And like just the more and more you do, the more you're able to adapt to other people's styles, because it is like self-work that you have to do to like adapt to other people's communication styles and connect with them. But it takes a long time, you know, like I think that is or it can take, you know, like all 4 levels to get up to the point where you're like, okay, I can just drop into anything and compare. At the same time, from day one, you can improvise with anybody because you are, like none of you know each other. So it's like, it just feels better. Like, you know, you're always doing it, but it just feels better and more natural as you go. So, like, don't get frustrated if you're like, oh, I hate performing with this one person for some reason. I can't connect with them. You're like, because that's normal. And then as you go on, you don't get any of those people anymore because you just can perform with anybody. I think.
Yeah, no, it's true. I totally agree with that. Yeah, it's fun. The more people, it also speaks somewhat to confidence. Like the more people you work with, different people you work with, the longer you do something, the more confidence you get in it. So, like for me, working with Seagull is like, it's easy. I don't think twice about it because we've been doing it, like Jimmy said, we've been doing it for over a year. We all know each other. It's an easy thing. We added someone a few months ago, and you know he was all nervous, like, oh, I just want to fit in and stuff. And he's like, we all just supported him. He just fits in. And Anuj, he's like, who's unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but
we had killed
it's like,
we killed him.
He wasn't who's weak.
Yeah, stepped up.
It was the newest and therefore the weakest.
He kept thinking of too many ideas on the sidelines. That's not allowed.
He's making all of us look bad.
Smiling.
But yeah, you just get, like, you just absorb that person in, and once they realize, oh no, all these people they've all got my back, and they all believe that I belong here, and you know, you always get that first, you know, you gotta kind of work with a little bit of an ego, and then you also have to be able to like totally push your ego down and let things happen. It's a very weird like balance you're constantly fighting while you do this.
I was curious. I was curious about how much and how you treat thinking about characters outside of presenting versus presenting, because it's supposed to be all in the moment, but it also seems like if you're not used to acting, it's hard to not spend time preparing characters. So
you practice all the time. Even I just practice voices in my car at home.
I drive people
Like
crazy.
different.
Weirdo.
You just try stuff out, but that's like you just practice improv all the time. You know what I mean? Because you're just always like when we get together, none of us have like good conversations. We're all like doing bits and bits and bits
Yeah,
and
bits.
bits. We just heighten bits
people
and
say.
and it's just you just heighten and you just do bits and you're just
There's
always
never any depth
practicing.
to our
And so
conversations.
yeah.
I think like
Shallow.
you can so you can like practice a lot. You can like have like set characters. Like it's like, oh, whenever I do this voice, I know that it's this person. Like this is their backstory and all that kind of stuff. But just like if you throw out an offer or do an action and somebody labels it something different, then you have to throw all that other stuff away. So you can come in like doing like, oh, I'm playing Doris right now, and then somebody calls you something else or says something that's out. You can still play as Doris, but just completely reform yourself to what's happening in that scene, and just take the idea of this character and go.
It seems like it would be helpful, like if you guys all know each other, that you have certain types that you like characters.
Oh
and
yeah,
you
we
just
definitely have.
jump
For
into
sure.
that.
Yeah.
Well, there's some things if you know someone does a really good like X accent, you might like
Brad.
sort of like yeah, like you might endow them with that having that accent in a scene because you know they're gonna nail it or whatever.
If you ever have a chance to do a scene with Jared, just make him Irish.
Make him Irish. He cannot do an Irish accent.
Sounds familiar.
It's like Scottish and then it's like,
Yeah, it is a big
Jamaican.
yeah.
Pull from real people you know too, because everyone has people in their lives who are very real, very authentic, very weird.
Just think about your grandma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Like
I'm right
pick
here.
pick your grandma, your mom, your weird coworker, and just like personify them.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, also like don't forget about just physicality. One thing that I do that's my weird thing is like if I'm walking around and I see somebody that like has a different style to how they're walking, they have like either a certain air of confidence or a certain like facial expression or whatever, like after I pass them I have a tendency to try to like mirror what they were doing and like walk like that for a little bit and then I'll just kind of go on with my day.
I do impressions of every people I work with.
Yeah.
Like I have like a little impression of them.
Can you do impressions of all of us?
Yeah.
I have some people. I don't have everybody.
We'll follow
Yeah,
up.
work is more fun because then they're like speaking serious things, so like it's more content. Whereas like with improvisers, you're always like sort of vacillating through characters that it's hard to sort of pin down.
I was wondering if there was any specific warm-ups that you like to do.
Who's gonna explain what happened?
I think Bagley.
We sang we sang Bohemian Rhapsody
The whole thing.
while doing the pattern game, a 2-level pattern game, while also throwing a knife that turned into a baby around.
Don't lie.
No. While throwing a knife that turned into a baby around, and we were also making eye contact and switching spots in the circle.
So,
So that is certainly not typical.
That was a crazy
That
night.
kind of morphs.
a lot of the warm-ups that we do are actually, covered in level 1, like,
6 things.
yeah, 6 things. So if there's like a warm-up that you like,
Czechoslovakia.
park it, and then next time you're working with your team, your players, or, you can do it. I mean, we did Bibbidi Bibbidi Bop.
Oh yeah, we did.
Oh yeah, that's how it started.
That's
Bibbidi Bibbidi Bop.
And hotspot.
And hotspot.
And hotspot.
We also asked, maybe it was you who asked, someone asked, like, what do you guys need?
Yeah, we
So
always
if
check in with each other and like,
Yeah. 'cause
An
some
energy
people-
passing game.
Yeah, I need some
One-word
energy.
story.
I need pattern. I need whatever.
Well, you can do something for focus, you do something for energy, and then you maybe do something for fun.
Or like a
characters.
line.
Chambers, yeah.
And I think it will also depend on what form you're doing when you're performing. So if you have, just like a montage, you may just want to play with a bunch of high energy games or something. But if you have something that's more, I don't know, like a mono scene or something, you may want to do something more character based, like corridors or something like that.
Yeah, Jimmy and I do a mono scene form together, and our warm up is just us standing next to each other for a long time, like just like sitting around or just like being in each other's like presence, and, like breathing each other's air.
That's my favorite warm up.
Yeah.
It's not even like it's just checking in and like hanging out with your team.
Yeah.
You're just having like real conversations, connecting with them. You can talk about your day, you can talk about whatever. You can just kind of sit together. Like just being around your team is my personal favorite warm up. And then like when we do get into warm ups, like having the flexibility to like take a warm up and then just maybe like tweak it a bit and just see what happens and kind of like have your team like organically do different things. Like you'll have your favorites will change because you'll be like, oh, I love this warm up. Then you'll do it a bunch, and then it'll start being like, okay, we're doing this just so we can get to that. But then if you just kind of change it up a bit, then just whatever can keep it fresh. But mostly it's just anything that's with your group. Right?
Cool.
Yeah.
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 Sounds good, yeah.
Thanks, Jay Wilder.